There's a weight most people never feel until it's too late. It creeps in slowly like dust on a dream. It builds silently and invisibly behind every excuse, every delay, every "I'll start tomorrow." And then one day, it crashes. Not in volume, not in violence, but in truth. The truth that you had the time, the truth that you had the talent, the truth that you had the chance, and you didn't take it. That's the weight of regret. It is silent, but deafening, invisible, but suffocating. And once it settles into your chest, it doesn't let go easily. Regret doesn't weigh pounds, it weighs tons. It will bury a man deeper than failure ever could. It will hollow out the soul of the woman who played it safe. It will haunt the mind that said, "Not now," one too many times. But there is a way to avoid it. There is a lighter weight, a weight that doesn't destroy, but builds. A weight that doesn't break you, but forges you. It's called discipline, and it weighs only ounces. It's the weight of getting up when you don't feel like it. It's the weight of saying no to comfort when no one would blame you for saying yes. It's the weight of showing up again and again, long after the motivation has died and only your standards remain. Discipline is the cost of greatness. It is not loud. It doesn't show off. It doesn't seek applause. It lives in silence. It thrives in repetition. It is the sacred grind that no one sees, but everyone feels once it pays off. And it always pays off. The world may not notice it at first. The results may not arrive immediately, but that small ounce you carry each day, the morning routine, the extra rep, the second wind at midnight, it is accumulating interest. It is compounding identity. Every act of discipline is a deposit into your future self. It says, "I matter too much to let myself off the hook." It says, "I refuse to live with the weight of what if." It says, "This pain I feel now is lighter than the pain I'll feel if I give up." Because that's the secret most never learn. Discipline is temporary. Regret is permanent. The sting of saying no to temptation fades. The ache of waking up early passes. The sweat dries. The soreness fades. The sacrifice becomes strength. But regret lingers. It replays memories in the middle of the night. It whispers in your ear when you see someone else living the life you knew was possible. It sinks into your gut when you realize you trained everyone else to believe in you except yourself. So carry the ounce now. Do the work. Build the habit. Deny the easy path. Because what you avoid today becomes the anchor of tomorrow. And what you embrace today becomes your advantage. You see, people think discipline is about rules, restrictions, a prison, but they're wrong. Discipline is freedom, freedom from chaos, freedom from inconsistency, freedom from the emotional roller coaster that runs most people's lives. Discipline is your shield in a world full of distractions, your anchor in storms of doubt, your compass when the path grows dark. And it doesn't ask for perfection. It asks for presence. It asks, will you do what you said you would do even when the feeling has faded? Because feelings are fragile. They're swayed by weather, by mood, by opinion. But standards stand. And that's what discipline creates: a life built on internal standards, not external circumstance. You stop reacting to life. You start creating it. You start owning your time, your energy, your output. You stop blaming the day and start dominating the day. Because now you're not just drifting, you're directed. That direction is your edge. And it starts with one decision: to choose the lighter weight today so you don't have to carry the crushing one tomorrow. Because once you carry the weight of discipline long enough, it begins to carry you. It builds something underneath the surface, quietly, powerfully, permanently. It builds belief. Not the kind of belief you borrow from a podcast or copy from a quote. The kind that's earned. The kind of belief that comes from doing hard things when no one is clapping, from choosing consistency over chaos, from becoming the kind of person who follows through. Belief is not found, it's forged. Every act of discipline is a vote. And with every vote, you are casting a ballot for a new identity. You're no longer trying to achieve something. You're becoming someone who doesn't talk about potential, someone who embodies it, someone who doesn't ask for an easier path, someone who becomes stronger, someone who doesn't wish for certainty, someone who creates it from within. And that belief, it begins to bleed into everything. You speak differently. You move differently. You enter a room and people can feel something, an unspoken certainty that doesn't need to explain itself. Because now your clarity is blinding. No more wandering, no more second guessing, no more drowning in the opinions of people who've never built anything themselves. You have clarity now. You know exactly who you are, and more importantly, who you are not. You know what matters. You know what you're building. You've burned the distractions. You've silenced the noise. You've removed the unnecessary. You're no longer trying to do everything. You're doing the essential, the few moves that change everything. Because clarity is power. And with that clarity, your vision sharpens. And vision is not optional. It is oxygen. Without it, you suffocate on the small. You drown in urgency. You become a slave to the calendar, to the crisis, to the cravings of the moment. But with vision, you rise. You say no to what doesn't serve your future. You say yes to what scares you but stretches you. You start moving not just with momentum but with meaning. Vision makes the pain make sense. It gives the sacrifice significance. You don't just grind, you grow. You don't just work, you wake up. Because vision makes your daily discipline a sacred act of destiny. And that vision once seen cannot be unseen. It will chase you. It will haunt you. It will burn inside you every time you betray it for a cheap excuse. Because once you've glimpsed what you could be, the cost of staying the same becomes too high. And from that fire comes purpose. Purpose is not a slogan. It is not a mission statement. It is not something you discover on a retreat. Purpose is forged in the trenches. It is built through resistance, through honesty, through ownership. It is the deep knowing that your life is not a random collection of habits and obligations. It is a message, a movement. And you are the messenger, but only if you accept the weight, only if you choose the ounce, only if you're willing to carry discipline like a crown, not a chain, only if you wake up every day and say, not today, regret, not today, because today you train, you build, you honor the weight. You don't run from pressure, you become pressure. You don't beg for peace, you create it through power. You don't hope for transformation, you prove it through action. Every step, every rep, every early morning, every lonely night, it's not just what you're doing, it's who you're becoming. Then brace yourself, because this is where the fire turns into force. Action is not something you wait for. Action is not something you feel your way into. Action is not an option if greatness is your standard. Action is your identity. You don't act because it's easy. You don't act because the stars align. You don't act because someone gives you permission. You act because not acting is a betrayal of your future self. You act because you said you would. And in a world addicted to talking, thinking, planning, and waiting, you become dangerous the moment you decide to move. You don't need another webinar. You don't need another quote. You need to do, because clarity without action is useless. Belief without action is fantasy. Vision without action is delusion. Nothing lives until you breathe into it with behavior. That's why the greats aren't always the smartest. They're not always the most talented. They're the ones who showed up anyway. The ones who moved when it hurt. The ones who dared to look foolish. The ones who failed forward with fire in their eyes. Because they understood this law. Discipline in action becomes identity in motion. And once your identity is in motion, nothing can stop you. You stop waiting for energy, you create it. You stop waiting for time, you command it. You stop waiting for the world, you become the world's signal to rise. And the signal is clear. You don't need easier. You need execution. And when that execution becomes your rhythm, adversity becomes your training ground. Because now you've become resilient. Resilience is no longer something you admire in others, it's what you live. It's the muscle you've trained every time the alarm went off and your body said no. Every time you got knocked down and rose without complaint. Every time you lost and learned. Resilience is not endurance. It is evolution. It is pain transmuted into power. It is rejection turned into redirection. It is the moment you realize life was never trying to break you. It was trying to build you. So you stopped cursing the storms. You started becoming the storm. You stopped praying for escape and started preparing for war. Because you know now, adversity doesn't weaken you. Avoiding adversity does. And so you leaned in. You adapted. You stopped needing perfect conditions. You stopped needing smooth terrain. You stopped needing certainty. You became fluid. You became agile in chaos, calm in crisis, anchored in ambiguity. Because adaptability is the signature of leadership. It says, I will not be shaken. I will bend if I must, pivot when needed, but I will not break. Because the mission is too important. The purpose is too sacred. The time is too short. And the calling is too loud. So you keep moving. You keep building. You keep becoming. Not because it's easy, but because it's worth it. And at the end of it all, when the dust settles, when the results arrive, when the world finally sees what you always knew, you won't be surprised. You won't be shocked. You'll simply smile because you carried the weight they refused to pick up. You paid in discipline, so you never had to pay in regret. And that, right there, that is a life well lived. Then here it is, the closing of the gap. The moment the journey meets the mirror, the place where all your excuses are laid to rest and only one thing remains your decision. Because now you know. Now you've felt it. Now there are no more illusions. Discipline weighs ounces. Regret weighs tons. And the longer you delay that truth, the heavier it becomes. There are no shortcuts that will carry you where discipline won't. There are no hacks to outpace regret. The path is simple. Not easy, but simple. Do what you said you would do. Become who you said you would become. Show up for your destiny before it shows up for you. Because here's the truth most run from. The clock is not waiting. The world is not pausing. And the man or woman you could be is slipping away every time you let the ounce go untouched. Every time you hit snooze. Every time you choose distraction over development. Every time you lie to yourself that tomorrow you'll start. You are placing another brick on the wall called regret. But it doesn't have to be that way. You can tear that wall down. Now, with one act, one choice, one moment of uncompromised courage. Start. Move. Lift the ounce. Let your actions scream louder than your doubts. Let your habits defy your history. Let your consistency become your character. Because this isn't just about goals. It's not about six-packs or bank accounts or applause. It's about becoming someone your future self thanks you for. Someone your past self dreamed of becoming. Someone who looks in the mirror and says not with arrogance, but with deep, quiet pride, I did not settle. I did not surrender. I chose the ounce. I chose the discipline. I chose me. So rise. Rise not for attention. Rise not for validation. Rise for the vow you made to your soul when no one else believed. No more wishing for ease. No more excuses disguised as reasons. No more letting the weight of regret sink its claws into your chest. You are not a victim. You are a weapon. You are not fragile. You are forged. You are not here to tiptoe through life safely to death. You are here to leave fire in your footprints. And if that requires sacrifice, then sacrifice. If that requires sweat, then sweat. If that requires discipline, then carry it with honor. Because there is no heavier burden than wondering what you could have become if only you had tried. So let this be the day the weight of regret dies. And let something greater be born in its place. A life sculpted not by chance, but by choice. Ounce by ounce, day by day, act by relentless act. Because in the end, discipline weighs ounces. Regret weighs tons. And now you know which one to carry. There's a sickness running through the world today. It doesn't show up in your blood. It shows up in your calendar. It shows up in your racing heart, your exhausted mind, your to-do list that never dies, your inbox that mocks you at midnight. It's not a virus. It's not failure. It's something much more subtle. Something that looks like progress, but leaves you empty. Busyness. We wear it like a badge. We brag about it at dinner. We confuse motion with meaning. But busyness is not the same as effectiveness. Busyness is noise. Effectiveness is music. Busyness keeps you occupied. Effectiveness keeps you aligned. And if you don't learn to tell the difference, you'll spend your entire life spinning in circles faster and faster until one day you collapse from exhaustion and realize you never actually moved forward. Because busyness is addictive. It makes you feel important. It makes you look impressive. But it keeps you from your real power. Because power isn't how many things you can juggle. Power is how many things you can eliminate. Power is focus. Power is clarity. Power is choosing depth over distraction. You don't get paid for how many hours you work. You get paid for how effective those hours are. You don't win because your schedule is full. You win because your work moves mountains. And if what you're doing isn't moving anything, if it's just activity without results, then you're not working. You're hiding. You're hiding behind the illusion of effort. Because deep down, you're afraid to slow down. You're afraid that if you slow down, the truth will catch up to you. The truth that you've been busy, but not productive. The truth that you've been reacting, but not creating. The truth that you've been chasing low-level tasks instead of high-impact transformation. But you can change that now. You can decide right now to stop being busy and start being brutally effective. And it starts with a question, a dangerous question, a question most people are too scared to ask. Is what I'm doing actually working? Not, does it keep me occupied? Not, does it make me look successful? But, does it matter? Because until you ask that question, until you audit your time with ruthless honesty, you'll stay stuck in the hamster wheel of performance, never touching the life you were actually built to live. You weren't built for endless hustle. You weren't built to wake up tired and fall asleep numb. You weren't built to drown in meetings, messages, and mediocrity. You were built to create. You were built to lead. You were built to build something that lasts. And none of that comes from being busy. It comes from being effective. So, how do you do it? How do you become more than busy? You get clear, crystal clear. Because clarity kills confusion, and confusion is the god of busyness. When you don't know what matters most, everything feels urgent. And urgency is a liar. It rushes you. It pressures you. It tricks you into chasing volume over value. But clarity? Clarity quiets the room. Clarity slows your heartbeat. Clarity reminds you, most of what you think is important isn't. And that's where your freedom begins. When you realize that success is not about doing more. It's about doing less better. Fewer distractions. Fewer obligations. Fewer things that dilute your genius. And more impact. More intention. More focus on the few things that change everything. Because that's the secret every high performer eventually learns. Success is not found in the number of things you do. Success is found in the weight of the things you choose to do. And the deeper truth? If you're always busy, it's probably because you're avoiding something. Avoiding depth, avoiding reflection, avoiding the hard conversations and real priorities that actually stretch you. Because busyness is safe. It feels like progress without the pain of true growth. But effectiveness? Effectiveness demands courage. It demands that you say no. It demands that you pause, that you plan, that you cut the noise and confront the hard truth. You can't keep living like this. You can't keep chasing tasks like trophies. You can't keep burning time on things that don't build you. You have one life, and if it's going to mean anything, it has to be effective. Because deep down you already know. You feel it in your bones, the weight of wasted hours. You feel it when the day ends and your soul is still starving, not because you didn't work hard, but because you didn't work right. You ran the race. You crossed off the list. You answered the calls. You responded to the noise. You survived the day, but you didn't move the needle. And that's the difference between being busy and being legendary. Because legendary doesn't come from chaos. It comes from clarity, followed by execution. It comes from saying, I'm done with distractions disguised as duties. I'm done with activity that looks good but leads nowhere. I'm done pretending that full calendars mean fulfilled lives. Being effective means making bold decisions. It means eliminating the things that drain your brilliance. It means refusing to sacrifice your calling for convenience. It means identifying the one or two things, the real things that build your legacy and going all in on them. Not multitasking, not grinding on 50 fronts, not reacting to everyone else's fire. Just pure, deliberate force applied to what truly matters. That's how results compound. That's how empires rise. That's how average descend mastery is born. Because when you stop being busy, you start building something real. And that scares people. Because most people need the illusion of busy to avoid the responsibility of becoming. But not you. Not anymore. You've outgrown the disguise. You've outgrown the cluttered life. You've outgrown the false pride of saying, I'm just so busy. Because busy is not a badge, it's a blindfold. It keeps you from seeing the truth. That your time is a weapon. That your focus is a currency. That your energy is a limited resource, and you've been spending it like it's infinite. But from this moment on, everything changes. From this moment on, you no longer wake up and wait to see who demands your attention. You design your day like your destiny depends on it because it does. You no longer react. You create. You no longer say yes to everyone. You say yes to the mission. And if that makes you misunderstood, good. If that makes you less available, good. If that makes you quieter, sharper, more focused, more dangerous to the forces of average, good. Because effectiveness requires isolation. It requires decision. It requires that you leave the crowd of busy behind and walk alone toward alignment. And that walk, it's not easy, but it's worth it. Because at the end of it, you won't just have a list of tasks. You'll have transformation. You'll have results that speak for you. You'll have a life that's not full but fulfilled. And the next time someone asks what you've been up to, you won't say, just busy. You'll smile with calm power and say, just being effective. Because that shift, that internal shift is where power begins. When you stop measuring your day by what you did and start measuring it by what moved, what advanced, what deepened, what grew you, what broke patterns and built momentum, you begin to realize the goal was never to get everything done. The goal was to get the right things done, to act in such ruthless alignment that your effort becomes sacred, your schedule becomes sovereign, your presence becomes rare. Because now you don't run around doing, you move with direction, and the world feels it. You no longer have to talk about your priorities, your effectiveness proves them. It's in the way you walk, the way you breathe, the way you protect your time, the way you say no without apology and yes without hesitation. That's what effectiveness gives you: clarity without conflict. You stop wrestling with your conscience because your calendar finally agrees with your calling. And that peace, that precision, it cannot be bought. It must be built. One aligned action at a time. One ruthless no at a time. One moment of presence at a time. This is where the real work begins, not in doing more, but in refining. Refining your focus. Refining your routines. Refining your rituals until what you do every day is no longer random, it's rhythmic. Until every hour serves a purpose and every task has a place and your mind is no longer scattered but sharp. That's what separates a day that drains you from a day that develops you. So audit everything, not just what you do, but why you do it. Not just how you work, but who it's really serving. Because most people aren't working for their future. They're working for their fears. Afraid to slow down. Afraid to say no. Afraid to focus because focus forces them to confront how much of their energy has been wasted. But you've seen it now. You've felt the difference between motion and meaning. You've felt what happens when a single hour of intention produces more than a week of scattered effort. You've tasted the fire of effectiveness. And you'll never settle for busy again. You're done wearing exhaustion as proof of work. You're done mistaking urgency for importance. You're done sprinting nowhere. From this point forward, your life is not a flurry, it is a force. You are not scattered. You are surgical. You are not productive. You are precise, and your days are no longer a reaction. They are a revelation. Because the person you've always wanted to be, they weren't hiding in a longer to-do list. They were hiding in the focused execution of the essentials. And now, you don't just feel productive. You feel powerful. You feel present. You feel undeniable. Then we finish this the way it was meant to be finished. Not with a whisper, but with a declaration. Because from this moment forward, you are no longer just moving. You are mastering. You are no longer just checking boxes. You are creating impact. You are no longer chasing the illusion of progress. You are delivering results. And your life? It's no longer built on the number of hours you fill. It's built on the intensity of your focus, the purity of your priorities, the power of your presence. You don't leave your greatness up to chance. You engineer it. You schedule it. You make space for it every single day because it's not a hope, it's a habit. It's not an inspiration, it's a system. And the system is simple. Do less, but do it better. Think deeper. Move slower. Decide faster. Protect your energy like it's oxygen, because it is. You don't let people pull you into their chaos. You don't let shiny objects hijack your flow. You don't let fear disguise itself as just staying busy, because you've upgraded now. You've evolved. You've crossed over from effort into effectiveness. And what you'll build from here? It won't just impress people. It'll influence them. It'll wake them up. Because when you live this way clear, focused, aligned, effective, you become evidence. You become proof that a peaceful life is not a passive one. It's a powerful one, a deliberate one, a disciplined one, where your calendar reflects your values, where your habits reflect your standards, where your schedule reflects your spirit. So don't just be busy. Be effective. Don't just hustle. Move with holy precision. Don't just wake up and hope today turns out right. Make it right. Build it. Shape it. Protect it. And let the world feel the ripple of a life that no longer scatters itself for attention, but concentrates itself into transformation. Because you're no longer running in circles. You are advancing with fire. You are no longer proud of being busy. You are committed to being legendary. And that changes everything.